Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello and welcome to episode 150 of Mythos Busters. I'm Sean. I'm very excited to be here tonight. It's 150. Joining me are my boys. We got the whole crew here tonight. So let's start with Justin. Hey, Justin.
Hey, Sean. Hey, guys.
How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. This is a good one. I'm excited too.
Do you remember exactly what episode you started being a regular host on the show? Was it in like the one teens?
I don't remember. I was doing the math or the look back because we had the discussion on 100 for how long I'd been around. But for hosting, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm. We've chosen a very circuitous path to which we acknowledge hallmarks in the life of this podcast. We celebrated 50 and 100, but we didn't plan a whole lot for 150, except for all the cool stuff we did plan. Not for 150, that happens to be on 150. So it's going to be pretty great. We've got Ian as well. Hey, Ian.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
I'm good. It's 150. It feels like we've recorded way more than that. Like 150 is a great milestone to reach, but I feel like we've recorded like at least 300 episodes of other podcasts that don't usually run like 2+ hours on the regular.
Right. They're lucky we're not charging by the hour here. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
Well, then on top of that, you remember when we used to do Twitch, guys? Remember we had a YouTube channel? Those were fun days. I hope to revisit those at some point. So we've got all that, and then we had the AV Club. And then, gracefully we get to like see people in person every once in a while. So that's fun. So many hours of doing this. But 150 is where we mark it today. And Scott, of course. Hey, Scott.
Oh, hi.
It's about 140 for you, right?
When I joined?
Yeah, were you 5 or were you 10? It was one of those two.
Oh, no, it was like 6 or 8 or something. I think I came on for an episode, and then
we immediately had to have you.
It basically,
as I recall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm no longer the most junior podcast member.
That's true.
I was the rookie for a very long time.
It's true. True. Though, to be fair, Justin has been involved with the podcast deeply.
Oh, yes.
And madly,
yes.
Long before he started showing up on the audio format. So
I think we decided that was around the 40s.
Yep, that sounds about right. So he's been here a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But
the
anyways,
1940s? Oh, okay.
We've got a fun episode lined up for you guys tonight. We have we've got our normal openers, of course, but we have some very, very exciting news to share. And some of you may predict it because you've been waiting for it, and we're happy to deliver it. And then tonight we are finally going to get around for our discussion topic to talking about house rules. So we asked, and you guys damn well delivered. We have a giant list of house rules to run through, and we're going to talk about that and where you can find the rest of them. And then, of course, we'll round it out with a little bit of technical time. Now, normally this is the part in the episode where I would say, well, what have you guys been playing lately? But I wanna like lead with our front foot here. So we finally have some real concrete news to share with you guys, and I'm going to turn it over to Justin to lead that charge. Let's go!
Well, as of, let's say, 5 o'clock Central Time on March 23rd, 2023, so a little before this will come out in recorded form, the registration for BusterCon went live. It is out there. It is ready for you.
It's a thing you can attend.
Yes, we will be posting this in Discord. If you want to get a jump on it, it is on the Game Center's website. If you scroll to events or just go to the, I believe, upcoming events and search for even the word Buster itself will get you there, but search for June events. The URL is gamecenter.com/event/BusterCon. It's pretty awesome. You can see our brand new BusterCon logo. Holy crap, is it amazing. Can't say how excited we are for it. Couple quick notes about it. if you are a patron at the board member or chief officers of waiting level, don't sign up on the Game Center site. Reach out to us directly. We have to jump through an extra hoop so we can get you the benefits that come with those tiers. Everyone else, run over to the Game Center's website. You scroll down a little bit, and then you register. You have to scroll down. They have a big learn more here, and that basically links to our website, but scroll down toward the bottom of the page, and there's a space where you can select your tickets. So,
it's time. It's time, ladies and gentlemen.
It is. So that's the logistics of it. I'm pretty pumped. I'm also glad the page is live, so now we can stop saying, we're gonna release it soon. It's released. Go get tickets.
It's out. Let's do this.
Yeah, those are my thoughts. The three of you, though, what do you think? How excited are you?
I'm pretty pumped. Something we've been building up for a while, and it's finally coming to fruition. So I'm just excited to have it out there, and people can show up and buy tickets. And God, it started out as a joke, and then it's happening.
Yeah, I have to say it's a hell of a thing. I have thoroughly enjoyed the energy of the community meeting at Arkham Knights every year. It's a pleasure. It's something I look forward to whenever I know it's on the horizon. And the fact that we kind of get to do our own version of that is just so exciting. Mm-hmm. And Iron Man ho, let's go. And we've got some cool multiplayer events lined up for people who haven't had a chance to get a hold of those yet. And then, of course, Dead CCG Day. We've been talking about it forever, and it's finally going to happen.
Oh, yes.
Here's what's going to happen is I'm going to bring like 4 games and play maybe one of them.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to go.
Yeah, for sure.
But so excited to play that one, whatever it ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
That game's going to be awesome.
I mean, to do true justice to Dead CCGs, you really need like an entire week at least. Mm-hmm. But, we'll do a day.
Yeah. That's BusterCon 2, where it's like Thursday, Friday, Dead CCG days, Saturday's Iron Man, Sunday back to the Dead CCGs.
There you go.
Hell yeah. Well, fantastic. So we look forward to seeing everyone who's able to come there. It's going to be a really great time. And thank you to all of our patrons and everyone who's supported us up to this point for making this a reality. It's kind of a little surreal. We're too lost in the how are we going to make this happen? Let's do this mindset. And I rarely actually take a second to step back from my astral self and just think of the idea that we're holding a convention at this point. And yeah, it's going to be a great time.
I did decide to throw that in the event description of it. Started out basically as a Patreon joke, but holy crap, we're here.
So did the tattoo. Remember when Sean had to get an actual tattoo related to this game? Because
true.
Yeah, that happened.
Just think of how many things that we've done that are landmarks that started as a joke. I feel like a solid 90% of them.
Yeah.
I feel like
musical
we're really
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if we did this really stupid but awesome thing? Okay.
Yeah.
You convinced me.
Yeah. Musical episode. That was a trip.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't wait for BusterCon. I can't wait to also meet a bunch of people. I know there's a lot of regulars on the Discord and listeners who are coming out to BusterCon who have not made it out to Arkham Knights or other events, and I'm going to get to meet them for the first time, and I cannot wait. So putting faces to screen names, it's going to be fun.
Yes. It's my favorite part. I love that. Excellent. Well, we hope to see you guys there. Okay. Well, now that we got the news out of the way, what you guys been playing lately? I'll go first because mine's short and to the point. Like I said, last time we talked about this, I'm kind of putting the Scarlet Keys on ice for a little bit, taking some time off. I want to return to it with a renewed vigor and more love than I have to give it now. So I'm prepping for Innsmouth Iron Man. And I know last time that we talked, I've had it in my head for a while that I wanted to play Silas in Innsmouth. And I do. And I maybe I will. But then when we actually started talking about team comp and like what Innsmouth demands, I was like, like it'd be fine. But how often do I get the opportunity to build like a really specific multiplayer support build for 4-player? And the answer is almost never. So I do kind of have to chase that feeling a little bit. So I've decided at this point that unless Ian decides he wants to go with it, I'm gonna play a tank for the team Tommy. And I'm testing with that right now across from an Amanda. And well, I'm not very far in, but Pit of Despair is going aight. It's fine. I'm hoping to go finish that game when we wrap recording tonight.
What's Tommy's signature card specifically for Innsmouth, Sean? What player card?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Please.
So this was something that I called out, and like many people can take this, obviously. This isn't like a Tommy include, but
Yeah.
I put it in the deck, and then on like turn 4 or 5, I was able to slap handcuffs on the Deep One Bull. And oh my god, the entirety of my Innsmouth experience is just dead set on recreating that feeling specifically. Because, oh boy, it is a red dragon I'll chase all day.
It does sound amazing.
It's fantastic.
Like that's just the shutdown card to
Just be like, and you're done.
yeah.
The only
Enough.
downside I then found out is that with Deep One Assault, it won't attack ever because it can't ready, but it will still engage after it gets handcuffed. So it will like discard one more card, but it's a choose to discard. So like, I feel like it's still the best option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's me.
I haven't played a lot, but I've been tinkering again. And for me it's tinkering with Luke for our Iron Man game because I am just, I mean, I said this months ago and it's still rock solid. And I will definitely not change 1 week before Iron Man. But I'm going to be taking
No
Luke.
way.
Yeah.
watch Nick and just in conspiracy with Duke, just drop that FAQ right before BusterCon.
Yeah. Limit once per game on playing an event somewhere else or something. We're like, no.
Although, you know, Luke is at this point Nick's favorite mystic, so I think you might be safe in that regard.
I mean, he's a really good, like, if you're a designer, he is a really great playtesting investigator.
Oh, yeah.
Because he will find the design flaws in any scenario.
Will he? Or does he just clip through all the walls?
Well, that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
if you make it so, like, Luke can't clip through the scenario, then you've got a rock solid, well built scenario as far as like barriers and stuff. So
Yeah, well, I remember when I was doing playtesting for Fortune and Folly, one of the playtesters was like, I have this Luke deck, do you want me to play it against it, or is that gonna like be too cheesy? I'm like, no, please play Luke against it. I want to see what it does.
I don't want to
think
be surprised by Luke.
Yes, exactly. I think every scenario needs at least a few Luke tests into it.
That's awesome. Justin, I know you probably haven't played a whole lot of Arkham. lately.
My answer will be short and sweet, and it's no Arkham. I was working on getting that registration ready, so now I can hopefully turn my attention to it. I'm actually very excited this weekend. Well, Sean, I'm playing with you as well, but we get to play with our friend Chad. We're gonna play through a little bit of Dark Matter. Finally picked that back up, and I'm excited both to dive into that more and just get back to playing Arkham. So nothing in the past, but it'll be by the next time we record. I will actually be able to contribute to this segment.
Well, we appreciate all the work you've done in lieu of actually playing. That said, though, do you have any idea who you'd like to play for Iron Man? Can I show you this Amanda list? I don't know if Amanda is who you want for Iron Man, because she's got moving parts, and that can get taxing. But I do like this deck. So
I am open to any and all suggestions on it. I am like just now even starting to wrap my head around it being Innsmouth and what that means. So if you guys are locked into who you want to play, I'm happy to round it out. And
All right,
might not be as straightforward as Nacho and Return to Dunwich, but I mean, as long as it's not full on destroy my brain like some of the cards we were reviewing last episode, then I'm fine.
that's the thing with Amanda. Like, she's great, but she does have that mental tax, and I feel like maybe
that's my hesitation.
the mental barrier of Iron Man, of it being all those scenarios in one day. Like when you get to scenario 7 and you're having to every turn think of which skill. Like, yeah, I don't know. That's
What I hear is we're just going to have to play a game or two I've never played her before. So, John, we have to play a game or two so I can know what we're even talking about.
Valid.
Darn.
The concern that Scott raises is entirely valid.
yeah, and I don't think that's just like Justin. That's not against you. That's against humanity, right? Like this is it.
Amanda against humanity.
I just bring decks for myself that I'm like, I have a couple key cards, and all I'm going to do is just windmill slam these cards down until the game goes away, right? Like, that's what happens. So, but I also think, though, that Justin, Amanda is one of those investigators that I think you would love to play and then also build and tinker with. Because I think she's in your wheelhouse.
She's real fun.
Yeah.
Oh, one of my favorite seekers for sure.
Yeah, same.
The skill ceiling is incredibly high. So
Yes.
it's something you can deep dive into.
You have to really plan your turn a little bit more intensely than a lot of investigators. Ian, what you been playing?
Although I think putting Scarlet Keys on ice is a totally valid life choice and perhaps a very smart one, I am still jumping into the loving arms of TSK. Started yet another Scarlet Keys campaign in addition to continuing a few others. So since we had kind of like this discussion around Tommy and Innsmouth, I thought to myself, because I haven't played Tommy in a while, and I think I've mentioned that on the podcast, I was like, okay, let's try Tommy through Innsmouth in a two-handed campaign. So I built a Tommy deck. And then I paired him with Joe Diamond, which is another investigator that I haven't played for a while. So pairing them two together with Joe is more of like the clue getter, but they can both do a little bit. So I'm only through 2 scenarios so far, and it's going well so far, asterisk, and I'll explain the asterisk in a second. So Tommy's deck is pretty straightforward, I think, what you might expect from Tommy, except for I'm going to try to do like a custom mods Becky thing, or at least that's what I'm aiming for. Not quite there yet, but trying to like slap custom modifications on Becky and use it as like a super weapon. But of course that requires finding it first. So
Sure
there's
does.
some cards in there for that. Yeah.
So beyond prepared for the worst, what are you doing in that regard? You backpacking?
The other big one is Tetsuo.
Oh yeah, okay, Tetsuo.
Yeah, getting Tetsuo.
100%. I ship Tetsuo and Tommy. Just
for
in case
sure.
anyone was interested.
Especially if you're trying to get Becky, but I mean just other items, because like Tommy's item fiend wants items out. So
Are Tommy and Tetsuo and Becky essentially a throuple?
Yep.
Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Just checking. Please
They're
continue.
polyamorous.
Oh my god.
Oof.
Wow.
And I have
so much
found
more satisfying than a laugh.
Oh,
that is
beautiful.
true. The oof is often more satisfying.
Yeah.
And another card that I like in Tommy, again, because I haven't used Tommy in a while, is because like motivational speech is a card that I've like mostly been focused on, like Charlie Kane for obvious reasons. But I think any of the Guardians who want to like spam allies out, which there's a few now. There's Tommy. There's obviously Leo. He has his own discount, but like can always use more. Like, but as far as Tommy goes, it's been nice because like there's some expensive allies in there that I have going. Like I kind of have like Greta as my main ally, and then I have a charisma spot where I'm like the disposable allies can just like be like a train through that spot over time, which is an interesting
Revolving door.
approach to Tommy. Yeah, I haven't. Usually with Tommy, it's been all revolving doors, but this is the first time I've tried like a main ally who you actually keep alive, and then the other slot is like meat for the grinder, basically.
I mean, like it makes sense. Like there's kind of a rhythm to Tommy. I don't know if you find this to be the same, but like you still got to play down the thing that replaces the thing that went away, and that can get slow if you feel like you're churning through the things that you have in play quickly. It takes you a while to build back up and get, like, you get the resources, but you don't get actions out of it. So yeah, like that totally makes sense to me.
Yeah, and especially if you start getting bogged down with enemies, there's not a lot of room to like build back up sometimes.
No.
So this brings me to my asterisk, and I think this is potentially interesting for our topic today, which is about house rules. So I played Riddles and Rain, first scenario of Scarlet Keys. I'll avoid any major spoilers here, but just talking in general terms. Like, I feel like I have a pretty good handle on that intro scenario to Scarlet Keys now. So when I have do like a team that does well, I don't get too excited anymore. Like, it's not going to tell me much about how successful it is or not. So then I moved to the second scenario, which is Dead Heat. So Tommy and Joe go into that. Starts out pretty promising, but then it kind of all falls apart. And so the game is over, like, bad resolution and whatnot. And then I think to myself, you know what? What I just did was a really dumb strategy. And it's like the same strategy I've used for that scenario, like the past 3 campaigns I've did. So apparently there's a problem with me just repeating the same failed strategy. So I said, what if I play that scenario again with a completely different strategy that I just thought of? And so I replay that scenario, something that I never do. I usually just take the scenario results. I replayed it with a different strategy, and then that strategy worked because I actually learned from my mistakes and got a very good result out of that scenario, probably the best I've ever done at that scenario. And then it kind of got me thinking that, like, one of the things I love, and I think a lot of us love about Arkham, is the way you can just keep going in a campaign when you fail. You know, like, you can fail
Maybe
forward.
you can.
Like, if you fail a scenario, that's not the end of the campaign, and you don't have to play the scenario again. You just keep going, right? But I think there's a downside there, which I was realizing after this experience. Like, in Lord of the Rings, like, there's no campaign necessarily other than, like, a special ones, and, you know, now they're adding more. That's not the point. But
Even within
essentially,
the campaigns, you repeat scenarios. So
yes.
like,
So the thing that happened in Lord of the Rings is, like, which has pluses and minuses of its own, but when I would lose a scenario in Lord of the Rings, well, I failed, let me try it again, trying something different. Oh, I failed, let me try something different. I failed, try a different strategy. So I learned scenarios really well, and I learned the best strategy. But kind of what I was thinking is that doesn't always happen in Arkham, because you do keep moving. You don't necessarily replay that same scenario. You do in different campaigns, but you don't do it in, like, multiple game sessions back to back. So you don't get that same, like, I failed, let me try something different cycle. And
yeah,
so,
that, like, roguelite run mindset.
yes. Yeah. So it's just, I don't really have, like, a grand epiphany from this, other than just thinking, like, it was a cool experience, like, doing something I don't do before, replaying, and it actually, like, was good for me for that scenario specifically. Now I have a good handle on how to beat it, and I would have never had that if I would have just or it would have taken a long time if I would have just moved on to the next scenario in the campaign. Yeah.
Topical.
I think it's very topical because it's related to a not quite the exact same thing, but one of my house rules. So, but we can talk about that more
Teaser.
later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I think that's a really good point, Ian. That is something we, quote unquote, lost from, you know, the transition from Lord of the Rings, or I think even Marvel's a little bit that way. Marvel's a little bit more modular, but I think it's closer to Lord of the Rings in that regard. Yeah, that just kind of like making runs until you get through. Pluses and minuses. There are some that are more fun to do that against than others in Lord of the Rings, I would argue.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, you definitely do lose that in Arkham. And I feel like in particular, TSK is probably one of the hardest ones to get that going, because
Yes.
it's so aggressively non-linear.
Yes.
Whereas, you know, like we've talked about this before with Dunwich, you know, like, all right, now we're at Blood of the Altar, you got to do this, and you know, then we just did Essex, and we had to do that, and you, like, you know, you have a rhythm for a campaign with that kind of linear sequence. But perhaps
and
perhaps that's why I'm having such a hard time with TSK.
Aggressively nonlinear was your math rock band in high school.
I think I remember that album.
I believe they were classified as anti-math, actually.
Man, and who doesn't remember their classic album, the TI-84?
Oh no.
That's when they introduced the synths and stuff and lost a lot of fans, but
Yeah.
yeah.
We played quadratic rock.
Oof.
Wow. I think though,
Thank you.
Sean, I kind of wonder, like, to that idea that, and Ian, your idea where you play multiple, like that scenario over and over and over again, you learn the rhythm of it, and then you know what the strategy is. And then Sean, you saying that the campaigns, you play it in a certain pattern because they're linear, and you get the story beats, and you know what strategies to take. Do you think that as we play more TSK and people start to find, I don't want to say optimal routes, but
They're optimal routes.
yeah, like find, how do I put this? Like hyperspace routes in Star Wars, more, right? Like there's certain paths through the campaign that just will probably make more sense than others than just randomly choosing locations.
Definitely.
And is it just still too early for us to be at that comfort level that we have as like with Dunwich as with TSK?
I definitely think there's going to be something to that for sure. And that is the benefit to being diehards like us who are going to play through that campaign ad nauseum.
Yeah.
I try to keep that in mind with my current troubles with it, is like, well, you will eventually know what you're doing. Yeah.
So a lot of people hated, TFA for
Yeah. Well, hey, right here,
while.
right here, buddy. I did that.
And now it's like fantastic. So
Well,
yeah.
yeah, no,
No?
it's fantastic. I still have salty moments against Forbidden Wilds, though, or whatever the first scenario is.
Yeah. Into the Wild?
Yeah.
No.
Untamed Wilds.
Untamed Wilds, yeah.
There you go.
And I think another thing that might contribute to it too is like the change in the release model, because and this might just be the way I played, but well, I know other players did as well. But like when we used to get the Mythos packs, I would have like a few campaigns going at once. So let's say the new scenario comes out, so I'd play my four campaigns or whatever. So that's 4 games of the same scenario, like over the space of however long it took me to play it. But now sure, but now until the next one comes out. But now I play. I'll usually play like a whole campaign through and then start a new one. So that means like whatever that scenario was, let's say it's Dead Heat, I play through it, but I'm not going to play it again until I've played a bunch of other scenarios and then come back to it with another campaign. So it's kind of like I work in the education world and I was a teacher before. So I think about it like as a student, you're supposed to get like, you try something, you get immediate feedback, and then you have the chance to apply it like shortly thereafter. But if you don't have the chance to apply it shortly thereafter, then that learning from the mistakes kind of is lost. So yeah.
You kinda need
Again,
that
I don't have a
repetition.
solution. I'm just thinking.
I think we're just describing the eccentricities of the new model. Yeah, that's interesting. I am confident that I will, at the end of the day, love TSK as much as I want to love it. But it is gonna take the reps, and they're sometimes painful. Maybe I just need to play better decks. That might be part of my problem. Anyway, all right, let's move on then. Ian, what's going on with the patrons?
Let me go ahead and pull it up. So first off, thanks to our board members. That's Chris B, Chris H, and Chris M, our conglomeration of Chris's. Morton, Jared, Ian, Kyle, Philip, Patrick, Abilio, Jesse, Chad, Robert, and Walker. Thanks so much for your huge support of the podcast and letting us do all the things we do, including soon to roll out our first convention and hope to see a lot of you board members there. I know at least a few of them are going to be there so far. And a special shout out to a random patron this time around goes to Johan Jareen. Thank you for your support as well. Or that could be Johan.
Probably Johan.
Johan, I believe. And mythosmerch.com, if you have not yet traveled to mythosmerch.com, check it out. We have a variety of cool merch items there. And keep an eye on mythosmerch.com because with BusterCon approaching, there might be some other fun merch items appearing. So keep your eyes peeled. Check it out over the coming months.
There will be.
Yeah.
I remain hopeful by the time this episode is published, we will have the BusterCon merch on the store. That's where it's going to be. If you're planning to order it ahead of the con, order it early in case shipping times run long. But mythosmerch.com.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this right now, driving, it's just been released. Don't look on your phone now. Wait till you get home and then pull up mythosmerch.com and see what we got there. And you'll be situated.
Fantastic.
That's about it for our Patreon business this time.
Great. Scott, Justin, any news we need to see too? I know we front-loaded it with BusterCon. Anything else?
There was a recent card from the next product that was previewed on a FFG stream.
Yeah, lay that one on us.
Yeah, it was a stream where Duke took two other very inexperienced players. I forget their names. I think one was Knight. I forget who. Raven Quill report. Thank you for reminding me, Ruman. I actually have paused on my Raven Quill busting to concentrate on Luke. Although maybe I need to look at Raven Quill in Luke.
Luke that can take it.
Anyways, Ian, do you want to read this card that was featured on a stream by Duke and Nick in a recent playthrough of Fortune and Folly, I should say, as well.
That old chestnut.
Yeah.
So this is a rogue event. It's level 0, cost 0. Will, agility icons, I'll pay you back, gambit, and trick traits. So trick, Rita can take it. Fast, play only during your turn. Choose another investigator at your location. Move all resources from that investigator's resource pool to your resource pool. At the end of the round, move all resources from your resource pool to that investigator's resource pool.
That is
a little trade going on.
All right, now and I'm just looking at the art here. It's definitely Bob on the right. Is that Skids on the left, or is that Walt Disney?
Is that supposed to be Preston?
Is it Preston? Okay, Preston.
I was going to say, I think it's Preston.
Preston makes way more sense.
I'm judging by the mustache.
Walt Disney.
Yeah.
I could have gone with Walt Disney, but yeah, Preston makes sense.
It's only one clue. What could it cost? 10 resources? This is neat. You know what I find interesting about this too is during the stream, Nick played it on like the last turn of the game or second last turn or something, and played it as if, you know, it was just a card that is happening. And at the end of the stream, they're like, "Oh yeah, maybe we should show the card to everybody." It was
It
really
was
well
such
played
a
there, Nick.
classic Nick move.
Yeah.
Oh
For
boy.
sure.
I
about
feel
the
like
card
this
itself?
is gonna do something broken at some point. Although we already have teamwork. Although this moves it back and forth and it's fast. Oh boy.
It's interesting. Because, okay, so first of all, like metagame, you don't have to have your teammates' permission mechanically to do this, right?
Grief card. That's what it is. Thank you.
Well,
Sean.
I
Yeah.
mean, sure.
Yeah.
But you literally could do this, and as long as everyone at the table is like, yeah, we play by the rules, even though I hate you right now, that's legal, right? It
Yep.
may not be helpful to friendships, but...
Yeah.
But then there are also lots of rogue cards that, like, turn money into more money. So I feel like this is kind of the play style it's begging for. Just be like, hey, let me borrow these. If that person's already gone this turn and you just need it to do your turn, but you know, you'll toss it back to them, I can see this being a pretty okay play sometimes.
And what if you're playing across someone who is playing a Dark Horse deck, and this is
Turn it on for him.
well, this is even like maybe first turn they get Dark Horse out, and they're like, I have a couple resources and I don't need them, and then you can take them, play your entire starting hand or whatever, so you're down to 0 resources. So at the end of the round, I mean, I guess you'd be up to 1 at the end of the round.
Mm-hmm.
You'd move your resources back to them.
Mm-hmm. Are people still playing Dark Horse? Does that make its way into many decks nowadays? I feel like the archetype hasn't gotten a ton of support. I'm
It
kind
got
of curious
support
how
with
hot
the-
it is still.
Yeah, I got support with the Compass.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a couple builds that still play it, like my Yodel Dark Horse
Sure.
one. I don't
Well,
think it's
this is-
super popular, but
This is me saying, like, my Silas deck that I was going to bring to Innsmouth
mhm.
is a Dark Horse Axe Compass Silas deck.
Yeah.
So it's not, I'm not saying it in that way. I was just like, it's just kind of one of those cards that everyone was like batty about when it first came out.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I hear Dark Horse, a X person Dark Horse deck anymore. It's like Duke, and that's about it.
Yeah, and it's I don't think it really has to do with power level, because I think it's still like a very solid and strong deck, but it's like, yeah, I think like Scott mentioned, it doesn't feel like there's been a ton new ways of playing it that has come out.
Mm-hmm.
So it still kind of feels like the same old Dark Horse deck
True.
in that respect. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of feels like there's, like 12 or 14 Dark Horse cards that if you're making a Dark Horse deck, you just plug those into your deck. You know what I mean? And then you fill out the other 16
Fill
that
it
you
from there. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I think the last 2 boxes have offered so many options to make whole new archetypes with all these different investigators and stuff like that. Like, it's just the game has been blown wide open as far as deck building, even more blown wide open than I used to think it was.
Oh yeah.
So-
It's not going to get any better.
Yeah, so like the market share of every archetype there is just getting smaller because there's so many more archetypes.
That's valid. So, okay, so aside from Dark Horse, do you guys see this getting used anywhere else that I'll pay you back? Rita can take it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is also Dunwich splashable, which always makes me just my
That's
brain
interesting.
spin. Yeah.
Not a bad Zoe pull, maybe.
That's what I was kind of thinking. Like once, like I was thinking of Iron Man. Once Zoe got set up, like I remember there was a couple games I ended with like 8 or 9 resources. I'm like, I don't need these. So, if someone were to play this, or even, I mean, Zoe could take it and like take the 1 resource and say, hey, you'll get 10 back next round. Just to dump resources on somebody.
I suppose it could just be teamwork,
This is rogue teamwork, is what this
Yeah.
is.
which is me work. You get what's left.
Yep. I guess the other use that I jumped out to me was just like all those rogue cards that trigger off how many resources you have. So you could like pile on resources from someone else if you just want a really big turn for your well connected or muddy talks cards or whatever. Or if you have like a talent that you want to pump a bunch of resources into, so not really going to pay them back, but you could potentially like grab some resources. Again, these are like the big turn plays where you just really need to fund a big turn.
What if
Interesting.
like someone's gonna be what's the gangster in Dunwich that when he attacks you or engages with you, he takes resources from you? Could you like take if they know they're gonna be hit by him, like you take their
Banyan
resources and then he hits them, there's nothing to steal, and then they get their resources back the next turn?
Slip
Like
it
here,
back
hold
in
these
your
for
pocket.
me. Oh,
Sick attack. Interesting. Thespis Ken points out the copyright date and cycle icon have been a topic of discussion.
does say
Copyright
copyright 2024.
2024. Oh my. Okay.
Which
And
Yeah.
the cycle icon. Yeah, so I suppose this is probably like a sneaky preview from the cycle that's yet to be announced, right?
I would
Yeah.
assume. Yep.
Is it a claw?
Or like a bunny slipper.
Yeah. Oh, I can't unsee that.
Nope. Now it's in my brain.
Yeah.
Maybe a bagpipe of some sort.
Oh, a dinosaur footprint.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. It looks like a a Deinonychus footprint.
A dinosaur wearing bunny slippers. That is.
A sideways bird head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll find out eventually. That 2024 date is a
Yeah.
thing. I understand why people are talking about that. I know nothing, so I won't contribute to
Yeah.
that conversation.
Unless this is like the next cycle is coming out. I don't know, later this year, and then this is like if they're
Even
making
beyond that.
yeah, or like new what do you call them, the starter decks we got.
Oh, so some kind of like side product maybe.
Yeah,
That's not linked to the campaign.
yeah.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be some cheeky ass shit if Nick was previewing cards from a cycle beyond the one that's yet to be announced.
Yeah.
But I guess I wouldn't put it past him.
I wouldn't put
and then
it
it'll
past.
change before actual production, and we'll never let him live it down.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that card
Pay
was
us
cut.
back.
Yeah. Card is cut from the product. Never shows up.
Well, excellent.
Neat.
Neat. And yeah, go check out that live stream. They played Fortune and Folly. It was pretty fun. I didn't get to catch the whole thing. Ian and I essentially tagged out. He missed the beginning. I missed the end. But they had a good time. 3 rogues.
Mm-hmm.
Had trouble with a bunch of willpower tests, surprising no one.
I've heard of that happening.
Yeah. 3 rogues had trouble robbing a casino, apparently.
I
Seems
know.
odd. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, Justin, do you want to take the lead on our discussion topic tonight?
I can absolutely take the lead on discussing house rules.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
We are finally here, boys. It's been probably 6 months or more that we've been asking for submissions. That sound right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's close to 6 months.
So,
Yeah. So anyway, we have compiled everything that people sent in, everything that we could find out there on Reddit, on the Facebook pages, on the FFG forum archive, on BGG, in Discord here. And then it's at this point we need to give a huge shout out to Reaverman. That's his Discord username. If you use this document at all or are curious about it, send him a thank you. He did most of the work on this. We tried to put some of it together, but he dug through it, sourced it, sorted it. Holy crap, is it sorted well. So huge shout out. I would clap, but it would pick up weird in the microphone. So well done. Thank you again to Reaverman. Everybody buy him a virtual drink. So
Or
with that,
If
Oh,
he's
go
coming to BusterCon, buy him a real drink. So, I don't know if he's coming. I assume he is, but
yeah. Oh, he will be there.
Yes.
So
Oh, perfect.
yes. High five him.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you very much. We really, really appreciate it. All the hard work that he put into organizing it, we have now put it on our website. This is going to be hopefully the main repository for house rules going forward. So it is available at mythosbusters.com/house rules. All one word, house rules. So we'll have links in the show notes. We'll have it in Discord. I'm going to talk to the Reddit mod, see if we can get it added to the sidebar over there. But they're all out there. There's basically 10,000 words of house rules that we have now dumped on the internet. 3 things we ask of all of you. 1, go read it. People have shared a lot of cool ideas. Go check it out. See if there's something you can pull from there that will improve your Arkham experience, just make it more fun for you or someone you play with. And maybe there's nothing there for you. If there's not, and you have other ideas, let us know. We're happy to keep adding to this. It's going to be a living document. There's a submit house rule button on the webpage. Otherwise, email us at mythosbusterspod.com or just ping us on Discord. We're happy to add more. And last but not least, if you see a discussion about house rules come up somewhere, especially if it's not in the Discord, which is mainly where we hang out when we're online. If you could link to this, we'd appreciate it. Not because we're trying to drive traffic here specifically. We don't monetize our website. We don't get anything from that. But we really do want this to be a good community resource. So if you are in a discussion where house rules are brought up and someone hasn't already shared this, please share it. Just help us spread the word.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So with that, that's all the fun intro stuff. Scott and Ian, we'll start with you because I've talked to Sean just a little bit about this, but did your brains break when you saw the list?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was
Definitely.
extensive. Although I must say the way Riverman organized it, so you can click on there's deck building, and it's like deck building with player cards or basic weaknesses, and then during the scenario, is it the enemy phase, is it the Mythos phase, like all these different, the way it's organized made it a lot easier for me to come and like read one section and then go mop the floor or whatever, and then come back and read another section. So
Yeah, and we've tried to add jump links and everything to make it easy. So there's a table of contents, then you can jump down to what you're looking for. You can also obviously just search within the page. But yeah, I still have not word for word read all of it, and I figure we can go through a good chunk of it now. And also, we won't actually be able to go through all of it here in this episode, or it will be a 4-hour episode.
No, it is girthy.
So we will hit some of the high notes or things we find interesting, and then also I know I've got a couple house rules for you guys. If there's some that aren't on there, if you have others, we can talk about them too. But it's not going to be comprehensive on this episode. So definitely go check out the page. And we're not skipping anybody's house rules because we don't like them or anything like that. It is purely a function of time.
mm-hmm.
Surely after you go out and see this list, you will understand.
There's also a lot of house rules that, or some that are like really similar too. Like we obviously included a whole ton, but there's some that like, oh, these two work together, or they're very similar. So if we mention one, it's like we're mentioning both.
All right. Well, boys, let's dive in.
Okay, so I'm jumping like straight to the middle of the page, just because I had like my own little collection, and I found almost all of them reflected in some meaningful way in this list. So the first one, and I love this. This is a way better name for it. So my group has a rule we call the salty run back. It doesn't happen that often, but sometimes you just get caught up in a string of auto fails or draw your weaknesses back to back on the first 2 turns, or the Mythos deck just hammers you out of nowhere. Sometimes we take our licks and trudge through. Sometimes we enact the salty run back. Just reset the scenario and give it another go. Doesn't change the difficulty at all. It just helps us accept that sometimes the luck of the game was out to get us, and that is from Fractal Hack. And boy, that is a mood that I identify with.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I have told multiple stories of my own salty runbacks on the podcast. But yeah, I don't think that's weird. I think that actually speaks a little bit more to kind of what Ian was referencing earlier. I'm sure I would do this even if I hadn't been a Lord of the Rings card game veteran, but since I am, it's all the more easy just to be like, all right, that sucked.
Yeah.
That wasn't like a game. You know, I'll take a lick in a game, but if I get absolutely blown out, I'm almost always doing a salty run back. So I can actually play the scenario, right? Like, you want to see it, you want to do it. So I think that's a really clutch one.
Well, it's almost like the point of games to have fun.
Yes.
Yeah, for me that speaks to similar to what Ian was describing. You're not modifying what you're doing purely because of a bad result. There's another factor there. So here it was a bad result, but it's because you had literally the 6 things in a row that could be worse for you right out the gate. And sure, you can choose to play through that, but if that has affected your enjoyment of it, then yeah, why not? Like, scoop it and start over. You might have a bad opener again, a different way, but it's not that like optimal bad. And so then you can feel like the game is fighting you, but it's not just auto beating you.
Yeah, exactly. Make a game of it.
Yeah, another example I have of this is, and I've said it a lot, that I tend not to use house rules, but I feel like over time I'm becoming a little more open. And
Attaboy.
One example I can think of the salty run back is I was running my Charlie Kane with Summon Hound, and then I believe his first turn got summoned to hound out. Cool. And then my next action, draw a card. The weakness to
Of course.
discard my summon hound. And I was like, nope, that is not going to happen. That is dumb. That is, yeah. I just restarted that scenario. It was the first turn anyway, but like, I don't have time for that.
You
nonsense.
just started the
I'm
whole
sorry.
scenario for that? I suppose it was like first turn, right?
It was first turn, yeah. It's like it's not like I even need to go back that much or reset a bunch of stuff. It's like, nope. That is, yeah, no.
That
I feel like there needs to be
I
like a-
create
refuse.
I create alternate universes like that all the time.
I feel like there needs to be like a one round clause on those, like the weaknesses that come from player cards. Like you don't draw them that round in upkeep or during
Yeah.
like you know
Maybe
it just
you don't.
yeah. No, that's the rule, Sean. You just don't. One of my favorite rules that actually I really got a kick out of is if you just start at the top of the list. It's talking about deck building and player cards regarding like the taboo and restricted and unrestricted lists and stuff like that. Taboo is optional. Is a great
What?
house rule. Yeah. This is submitted by
I knew
FFG.
that was a house rule.
Yeah.
I love that it's like straight at the top of the list too.
Yeah.
Your friendly reminder.
Yeah. One thing I do though, the next one about taboos, and this is kind of I've seen it in a few places where you can take a taboo, a level 0 card that has been chained, so added XP. You can take that at the beginning of the scenario or beginning of the campaign, but your first XP that you would gain you must pay for that card. So it must essentially be your first upgrade. You're essentially buying it on credit. That way you can start like with Renfield in your deck, for instance, right? And you can pay that 6 XP later on. But yeah,
I
as
have
long
heard
as the
people
card is
doing
level
that with side scenarios. I didn't think about doing that with chained cards.
0. Yeah, I like that for side
interesting.
scenarios too, where it's you owe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that concept is neat. I would, if I was going to do it with the side scenarios, I would just want to, I don't know, in case something goes horribly askew somewhere, I'd want to have basically a punishment that could also pop in too. That's the whole like using credit, and if I don't have it paid back by a certain point or so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
Maybe
what
if
that
you-
would look. I don't know what that would look like, and in general, I find this proposed rule really intriguing. I like that it lets you play somewhere in between taboo and non-taboo.
What if you didn't pay it off completely after the first scenario, you add 1 XP to the total that you need to pay.
Yeah, it's the interest that accrues.
There you go. It's your late fee.
Yeah.
Overdraft fee.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just keep going down the list if we can. Now
sure.
we kind of know where we are. We can skip forward if we want to. But
I always like Barkham Horror is always legal. The Barkham cards.
Look, the Barkham investigators are actually kind of fun. Like, aside from their silliness, there's some interesting things going on there, particularly with Jacqueline. What was the mystic Jacqueline Canine?
I can't remember.
I
I've
don't
played it
remember.
twice.
I can't either.
Sorry. But maybe with this house rule, I'm going to start playing it more.
Yeah.
So a couple I'm going to kind of lump together here. One is we have added a restricted list, and you may only take 5 copies of cards from that restricted list in your decks. Or it's not 5 copies of a single card, but you only have 5 cards from the restricted list in your deck. And then similar people have made just a banned list, like Flamethrower, and pretty much every card on the taboo list, according to Billy Old Sherrod. So that's cool. Like, you know, if you this is what I'm talking about. You know, when we talk about the taboo and the meta and people who kind of complain about cards but can't stop playing them, I love to see that rule where it's just like, all right, well, we recognize this card's kind of trivializes the game in a way we don't enjoy. Just stop playing it. It's good.
On Reddit, Eelwop has something similar where he makes uses set rotation. So he'll rotate out a campaign worth of cards, or maybe like they will only build from, 3 sets or something, which I think is interesting. I've heard it mentioned a few times.
Restricted pools are cool.
Weaknesses is a very interesting topic because we have basically created a house rule of our own for
True.
Iron Man, where you can admit that you are a coward and you reject your fate and redraw your weakness. And there's a lot here where, I mean, there's
And the incantation's important.
Yeah, yes. The screaming that you are a coward and you reject your fate is the most important part of that. But there's a lot of house rules here. Tons of variability on I draw 3 weaknesses or I draw X weaknesses and I remove 1 or 2 and then I take the random one from the ones that are left. And like so just basically getting a smaller pool of resources or weaknesses, and you remove the one that is just like the absolute deck breaker. And then you're like, well, the rest suck, but at least they don't literally ruin my entire deck.
Again, like it's no fun if you just know you're going to have an actively bad time. Unless you're Ian, and you
think
just take amnesia right on the chin.
Yeah.
Yep.
The one that I really like, though, is at higher player counts, you draft weaknesses where it's player count +1 of random basic weaknesses, and then each player selects one in like going around the table, but table talk is banned during the drafting. So you like if you're first, you got to pick that weakness, but you can't talk about it, and I think that's really cool.
I like that.
I thought that one was really, really neat, and then I got a flash of anxiety if we'd do it at Iron Man, but I would have to go first and be like,
Oh yeah,
Peril. Peril.
It's flashing back to what was the treachery that drove us crazy in Return to Dunwich? I'm not gonna remember right now, but yeah. That similar
a baleful
moment where-
welcome.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that one is pretty iconic.
The weakness one I really like in this list that I might actually start using is adding a cooldown to the basic weakness deck. That when you're done with a campaign, you set the basic weaknesses that you use for that campaign aside. Here it says for 3 campaigns, but I just like the idea of like when it's used, like just set it aside, have it cool down just so you can see more weaknesses, because I think we all have stories and they're different weaknesses for us sometimes, but of just you just keep drawing the same weaknesses all the time.
the amount of times
And
I've
it's
played
always
with Haunted-
chronophobia.
Oh, haunted for me.
Okay, so that's actually an interesting discussion that's kind of in the list here. What are reasons that you would pull a weakness completely randomly and toss it back to find another weakness? Like, why might you do that? We've already talked about like, okay, this is the silver bullet for my deck. I've seen it so many times.
Vather, one suggest is it's too mild or even beneficial. So like the weakness curse, the one that has 5
Dread
weakness-
curse.
or dread curse. Sorry, that five curses to the bag in a curse based deck. Like that
Sure.
is
Or
that's a
paranoia
player
in your
card.
Dark Horse deck.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no!
I have to say, players who do this are far better players than I.
Yeah,
'Cause
no
if I
doubt.
get
No doubt.
if I get one that helps me, I'm like, okay, I'll take it.
A Dark Horse curse deck and my 2 weaknesses. Yeah.
I imagine Ian just like throwing his hands up and be like, well, if I have to.
Yeah.
Well, I technically shuffled. Yeah.
Another one listed here by Eldan985 is limiting for thematic reasons. For instance, drawing the sign is only for Carcosa.
I really
That's
like that,
interesting.
but you guys know how heavily I love the theme play.
I dig it.
And equally on that theme, another one by Amina Mundi is they pick 5 thematic weaknesses for each investigator and then randomly pick from that pool.
Oh, interesting. I also, as we start to talk about this and I'm like thinking about it, I'm way more willing to deal with bullshit when I'm playing multiplayer than I am when I'm playing solo. Like
Yes.
so many of my own house
Yeah.
rules. I don't know if we've discussed this yet, but so many of my own house rules of like how I just keep the game fun for myself are like making up for the fact that I'm not playing with anyone a lot of the time.
There's also the house rule of drawing your weaknesses without looking at them and getting to see them for the first time when you essentially draw them in the game.
Sneak attack
Uh,
weakness.
Yeah. which was a big. Do you remember when the game first came out and people were
Yeah.
arguing about whether
yeah.
you got to see your basic weakness?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were. I think most of us were in the just throw it in camp, and then your first scenario, you'll see it at some point.
Yeah, or the first time
Or-
you upgrade, right? So
Right, or the first
it's
time
only
you
secret
upgrade.
for one, but
Remember how little card draw there was in the early card pool? It
Mhm.
might not have been the first scenario.
yeah. I also like. I'm not sure if this is on here, but what I've seen is where they do that. They pick a random weakness and just throw it in their deck, and then every scenario they do it again, so you never know what's coming.
Oh, wild
Interesting.
basic weakness.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah,
Ooh, that's interesting.
spicy.
Because, like, how often... Okay, this is just a tangential question. How often do you guys find yourself making deck-building decisions based on the basic weakness that you pulled? I'm, like, sub 10%, probably.
Never.
You know what? I did in TFA because I got the one where I had to do extra damage as Ursula, or
That's
I get
true.
minus 1 or 2 XP, and I just didn't. I just did not upgrade into any card draw, just so I wouldn't see it.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think not often is the answer, but there are a few weaknesses that are ask you to do specific things, like the healing ones that came out in Edge. Like
Sure.
sometimes you just gotta add some healing to your decks to counter those.
I find I'm
But,
playing around weaknesses far more often than building around them. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I kind of riffing off some of these. I don't know how you would do this, some kind of curated list, but it would like kind of going along with the idea you get different weaknesses if like the weaknesses you get kind of respond to what happens in the campaign. Like if you got a ton of damage and ended your scenario with a bunch of damage, then maybe you have an internal injury next scenario or something like that. Or if you doomed out, then maybe you get chronophobia, like that kind of responsive thing. Could be interesting.
What if we approached basic weaknesses kind of like the tarot arc in Return to the Circle Undone, where you've got like a planned weakness set for a specific scenario based on where you're at in it.
I like that.
Someone more creative than me could do something cool with that.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this and you want to participate and come up with that,
Yes, that is our ask. All right, well, let's move to like deck building is the next one.
yep.
I think.
So I'll go first.
Yeah.
Because if I have a level 0 deck that just does not function the way I think it will, but I get an okay resolution out of the first scenario, I'll just rebuild the deck to what I want it to be after that first try. Because I'm not going to start the campaign over again, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Same.
Just not going to happen.
Same.
No. Yeah. I think there's a lot of similar ones where people allow swapping level 0 cards for no XP if it's not quite, suiting what they need. Or people completely rebuilding decks, but at the same XP level.
Yep,
So a few
I
of
do
those
that.
are pretty fun. Yep. Or back when packs
I have
came
now
out.
upgraded. I've upgraded from doing that to building another investigator at the same XP level to swap into the campaign. So
Yeah.
I'm on another level of cheating there.
House rules, Sean. Not cheating.
Yeah, potato.
Yeah. I also like this is kind of a side thing here because someone brought up spending 5 XP to heal trauma.
Yeah, I like
but-
that one a lot.
But on that, you can't heal trauma from player card effects, like in the thick of it. So like, you start with that in the game, and you cannot heal that. Like it is permanent.
Interesting.
I like that. That's
Yeah,
neat.
that's kind of something I felt since the beginning of the game that I wish was part of the game. Like, we had that as part of TFA. I think that's the only time that happened, really. But I kind of wish it was just a standard part of the game. Just spend XP to heal trauma, because it's not like you're really getting over on the game. Like, you're giving up valuable XP, so you kind of have to make a tough decision of like what's more important, getting better cards or removing this trauma disadvantage. I like that one.
Oh, here's one that, I mean, it's for deck building here in between scenarios, but it's back to that concept of switching up the weaknesses. I will occasionally swap out basic weaknesses if they have either never come up 4 scenarios in, or have dealt with them multiple times a scenario. Then I will swap them out. This way, Thematically, I justify it as overcoming it or killing the mobster and him not showing up in the Dreamlands 3 scenarios later. So again,
I mean, if you're sick of it, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of these rules I feel are variations on rebuilding decks, which is totally fine. It's just interesting how there's so many different ways that people view it. Like, some people say they just build back up to the cost of, like, swapping in a whole new investigator with a whole new deck, but it's still 24 XP or whatever. And another one where you can trade in an XP card for its XP and buy something else, which is kind of like rebuilding. But it's just interesting how it's different, how different people see it. Yeah.
I'm reading a little further down about the Dream Crush one. Did you guys see that yet?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's this board game, Dream Crush, where
Yes,
you have
there
to
is.
where you have to choose between 3 people to take out on a date and guess whom everyone else at the table picked. Take that board game, and instead of choosing between the people in the box, you play it with the most dateable Arkham investigators, allies, and enemies. Each round is a new date to go on and a new personality quirk for each of the choices. And let me tell you, you haven't lived until you've had to pick between Chuck Fergus, Dexter Drake, and Rex Murphy to go to a couple's baby shower with. Only Rex has a podcast about microbrews, and Dexter won't shut up about his time in Japan. There's no better way to wind down from a long Arkham session.
That sounds amazing.
It's not a house rule, it's a house lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna pick Chuck Fergus from that
Yeah, I
list,
was about to say it's Chuck,
obviously,
though,
but-
right? It's definitely
Yeah.
Chuck. Mr. Fergus gets things done, and he is ready in the car when you want to like bail from that baby shower because it's gotten awkward.
So, moving on to the Chaos Bag, which I think is possibly the most, like, the earliest modified thing, like, house rules wise.
People had a lot of opinions.
Yeah, and I feel like it's one of the earliest ones we talked about, like, oh, just, the idea of taking, like, if you draw the Elder Sign or the Tentacle, you keep it out of the bag until you draw the other one, and then they both go back in. Playing Stand Hard difficulty, where you play with, like, a standard Chaos Bag or with the hard scenario card, or standard card with the hard bag, I think are pretty common.
I think it's worth reading through all these. I think this one comes up so much, and there's maybe 10 of them here. So
Some people will, King's Gambit will add a second Elder Sign token, either in lieu of another positive token or just to enjoy Investigator's Elder Sign abilities actually firing off more consistently, which I appreciate. It's and yeah, Ando Calrissiano also turns the +1 into another Elder Sign just to have that more often.
yeah, and those are very
is-
specific, the Elder Sign, but I also like this other one of adjusting the difficulty just by tweaking it. Of add a 0, remove a tablet, swap an Elder thing for a skull. That's also from King's Gambit, but it's just, I'm sure the Chaos Bag has been fine-tuned in playtesting, at least to a degree, but yeah, if that's an easy way for you to have a better time playing the game, man, the overhead on that is very minimal.
I have done that one when playing with some of my more casual people that I play with. Just that -5 in TFA hits really hard, and it shows up a lot. And sometimes I want to spare people I love from pain.
Yeah, like even Nick brought that up where he was saying, like, playing with his wife, he was like, no, I'm just gonna throw another +1 in the bag because he wanted to. So,
Because I love my wife.
I also like the idea of replacing the auto fail with a -8 token, because then it's like essentially the same, except that if you really, 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 really need to pass a test, you can go 8 up, which is huge.
Which is big.
Especially
it's
when you
attainable.
draw
Yeah,
especially when you draw a -1, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I like that. Because it's basically a fail. Michael H. added, since they had heard how punishing and tricky Forgotten Age is, added 8 bless tokens to the bag at the start of the campaign and 1 fewer for every scenario thereafter. And apparently that helped. Godspeed, you guys. I'm glad you had a good time with TFA your first time through. That's an achievement.
just had to cheat to do it.
Yeah, Bless and Curse is an interesting way to adjust difficulty. I hadn't really considered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, especially allows those first few turns. Like, you can maybe take a more risky test as opposed to, like, committing those assets that you need to play, you know?
Right, because you're not, like, adjusting the bag for the whole game. It's like they're fleeting. They will go away, so...
Yeah. And, like, on Scenario 6, you've had some XP to build up your deck, so you only have 3 Blessed to start in there.
I dig it.
Unless you build a Blessed-based deck, then it's, like, bonkers good. Probably.
Yeah.
Then you're just
now you're just
filthy,
playing
but-
T-ball.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's these...
I mean, basically the last 3. There's one fan one, and then 2 from FFG ultimatums that are basically the opposite of everything we've talked about.
Yeah.
But spiking the chaos bag with a damage and horror token, or worse. We still pull another chaos token after this damage or horror is pulled, and then it's removed for the rest of the scenario. And so this is from a Facebook post, and it came with a picture where in the example, among the chaos tokens in the coin capsules, there was a 3 damage token. So in theory, someone could pull a 3 damage token, and then you still have to test.
As in, like, you just take the direct damage or horror when you pull it? Is that the idea? Ooh, that's brutal.
Yep.
I am guilty of accidentally throwing damage and horror tokens into my chaos bag. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm not alone there. And then I'll pull it out and be like, what the fuck did I do?
I got a resource in there too before.
Yeah, for
Spike
sure.
it with a resource.
It's like, why is there a doom in the chaos bag?
Then you got the ultimatum of failure. Just add an extra auto fail to the chaos bag. Yeah, no
Oof.
thanks.
Never
Good.
gonna do that one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thanks, FFG ultimatum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for the suggestion.
Yeah.
And then the real gut punch is the ultimatum of broken promises, where you just don't play with an elder sign.
Oh.
Which is not as bad as a double auto fail,
No,
I think.
but it's still insulting.
Yes, it is.
It's emotionally painful.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think we saw with some of the other house rules, like, people are trying to get those abilities to trigger more often, because I kind of get where they're coming from. Like, that's not even so much to me about making the game easier, is like, these elder sign effects are part of the investigators, like, but we don't necessarily see those abilities trigger that often, depending on how lucky we are.
Like, some of them are really clutch, and you just have no control over it. Or
Yeah.
next to no control.
Yeah.
Well, and is that what I forget what it was up in, I forget if it was deck building, must be deck building for the player cards. Isn't someone coming up with it's more for solo, but a way where you turn investigators into companions?
That
So
is
if you play-
Motex. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's if you play solo, then here's revised cards that turn other investigators into allies, essentially, or you treat them as companions. I haven't read the full thing, but I think a large draw to it is that they've got good abilities. And so then you get to see this cool stuff, or clearly love went into fine-tuning each investigator. So here's a way you can see that a little more without having it be
very cool.
way OP.
I remember looking at these.
Yeah, there's a...
Oh, I haven't seen some of the more recent ones, though. He's got a Mina on here. That's cool.
Yeah, there's a link to it on the webpage for anyone who's interested. It's about halfway down in the first section, the deck building player cards.
Yeah.
Love that.
It's very cool.
I like this one that Mr. Reaverman submitted himself for the encounter deck. Ultimatum of the Party Crasher. Shuffle the Ghoul Priest in the encounter deck during setup. I love it.
I mean, the Ghoul Priest really is the closest thing that Arkham Horror has to the Kool-Aid Man, right? He's just like always
Yes.
busting through walls, ruining everyone's day.
Oh,
He's the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh my!
I mean,
the
I think
Kool-Aid.
I'm pretty sure that needs to be changed to Ultimatum of the Kool-Aid Man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think we need an alt-art card now. The Kool-Aid Man.
It's such an iconic moment, though, in the experience of, I'm sure, every Arkham Horror the card game player, where they go, "Oh no, oh no,
Yeah.
5 per invest? No!"
Yeah.
There's just so many levels to it.
And hits for 2 and
Welcome
2,
to
3
Arkham.
and 3.
I'm actually very excited to have my brother and now sister-in-law. I had mentioned we're going to be having her try Arkham for the first time, to get to see someone have that experience again for the first time. I'll report back when we finally get there.
Can you live stream Boundary Beyond?
Oh.
I just took a newbie through Boundary Beyond a few weeks ago, and I'm sad that I didn't because
how was that?
memories painful as always.
Yeah.
We did okay though. We got 3 paths.
Oh, face checking TFA is just such a rite of passage in this community,
Sure.
right? Like the first time you play through, you're like, "What just happened? What did I just do?" Oh, I love it.
Did I wrong the game somehow?
Yeah.
All right, so then we had a few rules submitted in regards to mulligans.
Mhm.
And we've heard a couple of these kind of at the beginning of the game too, because it was, and I think, well, for a few reasons, but one of those reasons I suspect is that OG Arkham Horror, when you have an investigator and they have a signature card, you generally start with those in play and then accumulate from there. So it's a pretty common house rule that I've seen since the beginning of the game, that some people will figure out some way to start with your investigator's signature card in hand and then balance that somehow. And I think the most common one that we've seen is Camp Mulligan, and that one was submitted here by King's Gambit as well. And I honestly, if I were more casual with the game and didn't feel kind of a pressure to play the more basic form of the game so that I can like talk about it on the podcast, I would probably do this, because how important are your investigator signature cards? Like it feels more right. It feels more right. I suppose if you're like Luke or Ashcan, you don't care as much, but
Yeah. I also like this one where you can choose to start with your signature card or a story asset as one of your starting cards.
I like that one. That's cool. Again, that's more the theme of it for me. Of hey, we found this cool asset. Obviously, we have it.
yeah, it always would make sense to me that like this is the investigator. This is their personal signature item. Why wouldn't it always be an option for me to play it down? The answer is because it's a card game, but you know, that's not always satisfying.
It's a card game thing, but yeah, like the one I really felt with this early in the game's life was with Jenny. Like what's Jenny without her like pistols? Or even if you think about Zoe and her cross, like it's just. And yeah, again, I totally get it from game balance purposes, but I don't know. It could be interesting to see like a player card in the future where you trade like, I don't know, XP or trauma or something for getting access to those right away.
Or Daisy with her tote bag. Like then you can actually build around.
That makes a difference.
Yeah, a whole bag of books. So
yeah.
All right, let's just. I'm gonna just quick read a couple of these, and then, in the interest of time, because we're maybe getting toward the first half, but we have a chaos bag coming up next. I think we'll have some thoughts on that. But a couple ones are: when drawing a starting hand, draw 10 cards excluding weaknesses and discard 5. That's from Reddit from Dagans24. Someone who has also loaded my hand at the start sometimes by carrying over a card I kept alive through most/all of the previous scenario and drawing 1 or 2 less. That's also from Reddit from P Park 2. And then the last one is you draw 3 extra cards in your starting hand. When you finish the mulligan, you have to shuffle back those 3 in your deck. This way, we have much less non-games because you never draw the cool cards in your deck. From
I like
Daniel
that one.
Ballard on Reddit.
You just see more for that opening spread. I don't hate that at all.
Draw 8, mulligan to 8, and then you chuck 3. That's cool.
So let's talk Chaos Bag.
Yeah.
Chaos bag. Oh boy, this is probably where I cheat the most. I'm just gonna keep it 100% with you guys.
Well,
I think most Arkham players are in that same.
The first rule is we do 1 redo of a bad pull from the Chaos Bag per character per game. When I play with Mr. Trench, we call it the Mateo clause. We're just once per game. We just do it once per game for us. We can say no. We're like, and it's usually the auto fail. It's specifically the auto fail. It's just like
Yes.
no, it's not. And we just say it's not an elder sign. It's just we pass, and just like, and it's usually only when it's like maybe 2 or 3 times a campaign, maybe. but it's when that is going to make such a bad time. You know what I mean? It's not just losing. It's like we're going to be upset about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
You can take a failure, but when it's going to be straight up demoralizing, then like that's maybe a time you need to think about a different resolution.
Yeah.
I
looks
like
like
the
a
wording of this next one. At our table, you get 1 auto fail mulligan per campaign. And the justification, because sometimes that red token hurts your soul just a little too much.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah, it's interesting that a few people here introduced the cost, like lose 1 XP for every nope, or place a doom on the agenda, or take a shot from Tony Rakatansky on Reddit. That's interesting. I guess I'm always a fan of like figuring out a way to like introduce the cost to make me feel better about house ruling / cheating. But
It's the Catholic in us, I'm sure.
Yeah, yes. I will say this is the one that gets me in Arkham, this next category here. X tokens in a row. I can live with the auto fail popping up to just like ruin the test I pumped a bunch of cards into. I'm not going to be happy about it. But the thing that gets me is when you get into this chain of like 3 autofills in a row, which has happened despite how rarely probability says that should happen, happens to me a lot. And this is when I most feel tempted and I hear the siren's call of house ruling, because at that point I'm like, 1 time, okay, 2 times, 3 times, no, just yeah.
Sometimes true random doesn't feel very random. Sometimes true random feels a little fucking vindictive.
It's just as random as drawing the -1 3 times in a row, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I guess
Also-
the same 3 -1, but yeah.
I know there's no way to ever actually test this outside of some excruciating experiment, but I wonder how much your particular token shuffling technique plays into the tokens you pull.
Yep.
Do you guys ever wonder about that? I wonder about that a lot. I see a lot of
every
tentacles.
single time it happens. Yeah.
You know, it's funny we're talking about this 3 auto fail tokens in a row. Sean, you and I have a game on stream recorded for posterity. Of
I
me pulling
watched that
4
game
in a row.
recently. I watched that game recently, and it hurt my soul just
Oh
to
my-
watch the life slowly drain out of us as we tried to like crawl out of that situation.
Like literally drained out of us because I was trying to evade an enemy with retaliate. Oh yeah.
or you were
it
trying to
was-
attack an enemy with retaliate.
Oh yeah, and then evade with what's the evade one?
Alert.
Alert. Thank you. It was the
Always fun.
cop in the hotel or something. Yeah, Nick popped into chat and then I drew 4 auto files in a row.
Wasn't it Trombley? It was Trombley, right?
Maybe.
I don't
It
know.
was
I'd have
something,
to
I don't
remember. Okay, so I actually didn't know the story you were telling. I went and watched our Threads of Fate 1, and I think that was just 3 in a row. We
no-
topped it when we did Excelsior, but
The hotel was 4 because it was my 3 actions, and then there was a test.
and then the bonus skids action.
Yeah, or was it that? It might have been that one. Yeah, I paid 2 more resources just to fail again. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, so it looks like some people put a limit on it. Like one good turn on Reddit says if you pull the same token 3 times in a row, just call BS on it and redraw something more humane. And
I'm looking at you, cultist in Scarlet Keys.
Yep. Christopher K says 3rd time autofill is drawn, she'll forthwith be banished for the remainder of the scenario. There's a few more along those lines, but yeah, I don't know what house rule would make me feel good about it, but it would be something along those lines because I just the thing is either whether it's physical play or virtual, either way, I have deep questions. If I'm playing with an actual chaos bag, I have the Sean questions of like somehow I'm messing this up and like messing up the shuffling, or my hand is drawn to the same token when it shouldn't be. And then if it's on like TTS, then it's like, okay, this algorithm is messed up and it's getting stuck on autofail. So either way, I don't accept it. I just something has
this
gone
cannot
wrong.
be.
Yeah.
I do like what Time for Tidy I've kind of heard a version of this before, but I like how they summarize it. They play with the chaos bag a little differently to make the game a little more strategic. When they resolve a token, they remove it from the bag until the Elder Sign is pulled, and then everything goes back in. So you see the Elder Sign a bit more, but it also lets you be more strategic with commits and how much you'll go for a critical test. Because once the tentacle is out, you know what's left in the bag in terms of how much you need to commit, or you may decide not to risk your best cards if there's a lot of bad tokens still in there. Maybe right now you feel good about squeaking by with a +1 to a test, but maybe another time you need to go at least +3 and you still might pull the tentacle. I think that's a really cool, interesting way to play.
I dig that. And so the other one I know we've talked about, and it's kind of reflected in various shades in some of these, is the rewriting history. The Forest Girl on Reddit kind of frames it that way, where you played a turn or you played an action, took a test, but like you just did math wrong. And had you taken the extra 30 seconds to do the math right, or remember that, oh, the skull token has changed from last turn, is like the one that gives me the most. You will decide, okay, well, like literally had I known that there was another -4 in the bag, I would have gone to -4. So here, I'll commit this now and we're fine. You know, auditing math after the point, I think, is somewhat reasonable.
And see, that's,
as long as you're being honest with yourself.
That's one of mine as well. And it's, I know when I'm trying to just change it. I'm like, no, then I can't. But if it's, oh, dang, I know in my heart of hearts, I just accidentally missed this thing.
Yes, exactly.
Or this, detail while juggling all this other information. In that instance, I have no problem running it back, because to me, that's just honestly saving myself time, as opposed to truly cheating of, I would have got there. I have a finite amount of time to play games.
So here's the question then. After you have that moment, you decide, okay, well, I would have committed this had I known the information that I forgot or didn't know. Do you draw another token?
Oh, yes.
And if so, do you respect the auto fail?
Yes.
Because that will happen sometimes.
Yes, you absolutely have to. Yep.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it's...
That's how you make yourself right with the universe.
I mean, we're cheaters. We're not monsters, Sean.
All right, well, I had to check.
Yeah, I don't judge anyone who would just... As long as they're being real with themselves about what they would have done, and they're not just doing it to change the result. That's, again, the big differentiator for a lot of house rules for me is, if I'm doing it something after the fact just to change a result, well, no, then maybe I should have slowed down. If it's, oh, it was a whoopsie and here's how we fix it, then I'm more okay with that. Yeah. I prefer to then draw another token, because then it just seems cleaner. But
if you're redoing the test, you're redoing the test, right?
Right.
That's how I see it.
Seems fair.
I do like how Cold Toes here explains it, agreeing about like rewriting history, that on the theory that it's a disadvantage to playing solo, that you don't have that second brain to keep you in check. Like if you that other person to say, oh wait, wouldn't it make more sense if you do X, or don't forget we just had to do this. And so Cold Toe says, I allow myself to redo things if I realize shortly afterwards I would have done them differently. And I agree. I think we talked about this already, but about like, especially I think a lot of this leeway applies to playing solo, where it is a disadvantage not having that extra brain there, because most of the time where I need to rewrite this history, it is in that camp of like, I'm just playing too fast, or I wasn't thinking about this, or I forgot, like, because I mean, solo games in general, but Arkham specifically, it's a big mental load. You're having to think about and keep track of so much at once.
Especially and 100%.
Or two-handed, sorry.
Yeah.
Sean, I know you play two-handed solo. Like
I sure do. It's my primary way. And like, if you think about every time we meet for Iron Man or we're playing together, how often do we call that shit out? And like, everyone calls it out for everyone else. It's not like we've got like one quarterback. Like, it is just a thing to be able to like take 1 second and step back from where you're at, and not having players at the table to call that out is a serious disadvantage to true solo, or just solo play in general.
One last one I want to bring up from here, from Jay Fortnier, which admits he is like completely changes the game, but it's very interesting, is committing cards after the token is drawn. which is really interesting. And honestly, I'd like to try this, but up the difficulty to like hard or expert.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So like, it's more punishing, but I can be more precise.
So
And
it's
I
more
wonder how that
tactical.
would feel. Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that's been bouncing around since the game started, as I recall people talking about this back then.
Yeah.
If I were to try something like this, Scott, I think I'm exactly where you're at, where I'd want to increase the difficulty so that it is a tax. But then like you're taking out the element of the unknown, but you're increasing the amount of decisions you have to make on how you spend your resources, which I think would make it more interesting.
Yeah.
I think
the
I
pressure
would.
on your hand would be harder.
I would also probably want to add in some sort of penalty or something else bad when the auto fail comes out, because one of the things you do lose in this instance is you can avoid committing cards that then get wasted.
Discard one random card from your hand.
Right, something like that. I think I would have to do something like that to feel good about it. But I like the theory behind it.
Yeah. Completely changes the game.
Yes.
Like it's
Yeah,
but
for sure.
hey,
For sure.
that's what house rules are for.
It's like dealing shadow cards face up in Lord of the Rings. It would be a whole different thing.
Yeah.
All right, so we have some Mythos phase modifications here. So first one, everyone's favorite card.
Yeah.
Y'all live, laugh, love. Add one doom to the agenda. This may cause the agenda to advance. Ancient Evils. So Dagnus24 and a few others apparently said that Ancient Evils goes into the victory display after it is played, and I do not hate that, because there are some scenarios, particularly when you're playing multiplayer, where that discard pile gets shuffled in, and you've already been like through 2 to 3 of the Ancient Evils in the deck, and then you see like 2 more right away, and it's just like, come on.
The alter to that is my first play of in horror in high gear. I got to the end of the scenario and I didn't even know Ancient Evils was in the deck because I didn't draw it, and I also didn't set up the scenario. So
Right.
yeah, I was like, oh, it's because afterwards I was looking through the deck. I was like, oh hey, look, Ancient Evils. That's neat. So it was a great game. Had fun.
You know what we really need to do? We need to have a whole episode on Ancient Evils, because there are so many thoughts to have on Ancient Evils at this point in the card game. I feel like it'd be an interesting one.
I think we could do a deep dive on like 3 or 4 encounter cards, and that could be an entire episode.
Yeah.
Like the most impactful. Well, it's funny looking at this house rules list, this particular section about the Mythos phase, because there's at least like 4 here, I think, that are just about Ancient Evils. Like that's how much mental space it takes up. Like some other ones are Ancient Evils can only be drawn once per Mythos phase to prevent instant loss. I also think that's very fair. And anything that can automatically advance the agenda only does so if this is the first extra doom placed via encounter cards this round. So again, kind of similar that it's only like letting one do that advancement. So yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is like Sean mentioned, that when scenarios like shuffle the discard pile back into it. Like we've talked about it a lot on many episodes, but just the bane of my existence, shuffling Ancient Evils in the discard pile back into it. Like, oh, I've gotten through 2 or 3 and it's back again. Yeah.
Yeah, when true random is on its vindictive arc, like that is the last thing you want to see, because it's like, oh no, I just killed that 6 health enemy. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I like one that Lord Batboy brings up is player order is variable. The player order going into the Mythos phase is the order we took our turns in last round.
How would that change things? That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there is that like tiny bit of strategy that I've brought to us in Iron Man, where it's like whoever has cancels draws last, right? Like we sit in certain orders. Like there's just a mild bonus to doing that, but it's also just interesting, I think, too. I don't know. Breaks up the monotony, maybe.
Another one for Mythos in changing up the player order is to choose the lead investigator based on the scenario flavor. So based on who you think would be leading the charge in your particular scenario, or potentially choosing this over a campaign basis. But
Example given, like Min is in Carcosa, she's the lead because King in Yellow, obviously.
Yep.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Ooh, I also
she's
like
the queen in yellow.
I also like the one right above that for the theming of it, of prey goes straight to the target instead of whomever drew it.
Mm.
I mean that
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean that could pile on in a weird way, but yeah, if it's going to hunt and it is that singularly focused, then hey, it goes right to them anyway.
Side topic, y'all miss prey a little bit. I feel like prey is one of those keywords that's kind of a little underused of late.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
I don't miss being prey, but I feel like
Yeah.
we see less
Just
of it.
its existence. One of these jumps out to me because sometimes it's an unintentional house rule I use, which is skipping the drawn counter step of the Mythos phase when the agenda advances. Because if I'm going to forget to draw encounter cards, this is when it happens, is usually when an agenda advances. And it's like the agenda has you do like 5 different things on the back, and then you forget
One of which
that you
might
still...
be draw encounter cards.
Right, and
Yeah.
then you have to remember to still draw encounter cards. Yeah.
So
That's definitely a
investigator
thing.
phase. Extra actions. There's a ton here. One is moving once is a free action. Then you get your 3 actions to do what you want, including moving again.
So Pirate Ben's got 2 that I can get behind here. First one is take a drink each time an action is spent on liquid courage,
Of course.
as you do.
Totally fair.
That's
And then
sorry,
for-
that's a house rule? I thought that
It's just a way of life.
yeah.
And then the other one is the real one. and that's always read the flavor text when you enter a location or draw a new encounter card for the first time. And that is one thing that I always enjoy playing a scenario for the first time in multiplayer, like in particular when we have the special event scenarios, stuff like that. But this is what I miss from those plays, because it's usually in a crowded hall, things are loud. You know, if we were doing this at home, probably I could get everyone on board with reading cards aloud, but in those events you lose that kind of pace. And I really, really enjoy when I see a new encounter card, location, treachery, enemy, taking in the art as much as I can and always reading the flavor text.
There's a whole section here on some house rules that I guess I never really thought of as house rules, but I suppose they are technically, and I do use all these, so I guess I do use some house rules. And these are all related to undo actions. The first one being refund actions as long as you haven't pulled a token and no new info was presented.
100%.
Like
Reasonable.
definitely, to me, that's not just an Arkham thing. That's like just a general cooperative board game, card game thing to me. Like you can take back stuff as long as like no new info came out of it that you didn't know before.
If nothing hidden or nothing random was changed, then yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
And then you can rewind an action or 2 if we realize a player was confused or ignored or forgot about a mechanic, a rule, a trait. I mean, there's decisions like, oh right, I can't do that because this, or it would be absolutely
oh shit, I forgot I was
asinine.
engaged with this enemy.
Yeah, it would be stupid for
Yeah,
me to
that
go do
happens
this
a
because
lot.
the skull is -8 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, again, that ties for me. I like basically everything here, and it seems to echo that same philosophy you guys were voicing and we were mentioning before of wind it back so that you can actually play the game, but not just so you can undo something bad. Again, you know within yourself the reason why you're doing it, and then just get it back as close as possible. That's the other thing I have, is if I'm unwinding something, but say we've gone just slightly far down the path and it's like not like 6 turns later or something, but it's, oh, so we did this and where was the game state before that? Get it as close as possible. And if it's, you know what, to make up for it, I'm going to take 1 fewer actions next time around. Fine. Just, we'll call it there. It's about getting close and having fun.
Well, the alternative is to take a half hour to plan a single turn and then play it perfectly. And like, good on you if you're capable of that, but I sure ain't.
Yeah. And kind of like a variant of this is what I call like Doctor Strange mode, where like you all have those moments and scenarios where there's a very complicated turn. This can happen in solo or multiplayer, where I'll just like try a couple of ways of doing it again without revealing like anything random or new, but just like, okay, what if I did this? Play it out. Okay, rewind. What if I did this path instead?
Just
And
moving
kind
the
of,
pieces
like,
without taking your fingers off.
yes, exactly, and just kind of figure out like what's the path I want to go.
See, and Ian, to that point, I'm curious. This ties back to your what have you been playing story about trying something new when you found new information. I'm wondering if now that you've tried playing something right after again, if you would do it more for that Doctor Strange type or multiverse or something, but instead treat it as, here's the result I got the first time through. I will honor that result when I pick this back up. But what would have happened if I had done these things so I can learn from it? And that way you can justify it as kind of that, like you said, Doctor Stranging. You get to play it, you get to learn from it right away. But then because you pulled the token, and this case, the token is the result you got, you just use that as you move forward instead of the new result.
Yeah, I think so. I think with kind of this recent experience and this recent realization, I think I would be more open to trying that. And like, I think that's a good way of going about it, of like, okay, we'll go with whatever happened first, but let me, in the interest of learning more, let me try out these other paths and see what would have happened.
Yeah, well, and again, that's speaking to the intent behind it. You are trying to learn, not unwind a bad pull.
Right. Yeah, and that kind of depends on the context of like where you're at with your learning in a campaign, you know? Like I likely wouldn't do that with like Dunwich or Carcosa, you know, where I've like played those campaigns to death and I don't necessarily have a big problem in terms of difficulty. Not that they can't beat me, but it's not like if they beat me, it's because whatever, things went wrong or I didn't play optimally or whatever. But when
They
you're
have to
talking
beat you
about a
fair and
campaign,
square.
yeah, but where it's a campaign that I'm actively learning, like the Scarlet Keys, or let's say I'm preparing for an Iron Man or something, like if you're in, I guess it's active learning mode or whatever it is, like I think in the interest of doing that, yeah, I should be more open to like using those methods. Like if if rules is written as stopping you from learning, then
You read 'em.
I yeah, I'm stopping myself from uttering the word shot. So you say it for me. That's fine.
Just cheat. It's cool.
So Sean, going back to your half an hour planning on a turn, there is a rule here for hard mode: a turn timer, a little sand timer for a few minutes.
No.
You get to flip it after the player phase starts, but if it runs out, you all take a horror.
Oh,
Play
no.
fast
Okay.
or die.
I'm now imagining chess clocks all the way around
Yes.
the table.
Yes. Okay. Look, after I know a campaign, that could be a fun way to play.
Yep.
Like I might legitimately enjoy Speed Arkham in certain circumstances, but that's brutal.
The 5-hour
Yeah.
Iron Man.
No. We'd have to
Oh.
have 8 different tables set up with the scenarios.
If we did like 5 hours of playtime, I think if we sat down for OG Dunwich, do you think we could do it in 5 hours? If you don't include setup and takedown?
4-player?
Yeah.
I mean, you can call it 6 too. It was an arbitrary number.
No, I'm sticking with 5.
I bet we could do it if we were very motivated.
Yeah.
Which, you know, the timer is kind of that's its thing. That's what it's there for.
Yeah. Interesting.
I bet it's possible.
I like Scott Filippo. We had a free parking location to every scenario, and if you land on it, you get 500 resources. That's pretty good. That's not breaking the game at all.
Nope. Nothing wrong there.
Editor's note: likely sarcasm or a joke. Yeah.
I've got
I
this.
would
I
think
thought
so.
this last one was interesting, and then we should keep moving. My game partner and I played that we're allowed to use lockpicks or spend an ammo to use a firearm for a locked door test. Might have to give Daniela a percussive maintenance ruling too.
Yeah, you know what's funny is Locked Door is one of those other encounter cards that has been brought up a lot simply because of how it doesn't always line up with player cards. Though I have heard who says it's locked mechanically.
Percussive Maintenance was the name of my custodian corps band in high school.
Jesus. Amazing.
He started the band to sweep the girls off their feet.
Oh, that was our first album.
All right, enemy phase.
A test to avoid an enemy attack. Something like that. I don't know how you'd test that, but pick a stat.
I mean, I suppose like if we're going in the spirit of like Arkham Horror board game, Eldritch Horror board game, before you get attacked, you get an evade test, and if you succeed the evade test, you don't get attacked.
Okay. Seems like it would give rogues too much power. We don't want to do that.
I like this one.
What? Rita's just screaming, "Stop trying to hit me and hit me."
Bang, 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 bang. This is a pretty common one. If you take control of a story ally during a side scenario, during a scenario, then for the purposes of that scenario, they do not occupy an ally slot. And I think this one's particularly validated in that we see that legitimately in the rules, like halfway into the game or the game's life. So I'm super okay, and I'm pretty sure we have on record MJ like gave the thumbs up to that retcon. So cheat away on that one.
I mean, MJ's pretty much given the thumbs up to most house rules.
That's true. That's true.
'Cause
She's
she's
not
just
like she's not like terribly gatekeepy in that regard.
Yeah, she's like, play to have fun, whatever makes the most fun, right? Like, and I like that idea too of Arkham being more of like a game system than specifically a game. And it's like, here's our suggested system, but also do what you want, do whatever.
Well, that's the benefit of a cooperative game. Like, there's no other constraints keeping you to the rules aside from the ones you impose on yourself.
Yep.
All right, what are some of these other miscellaneous ones?
Saw
that
the
stand
one
out?
good turn. The Lola player drinks for free.
Huh.
Yes, they do.
All right.
Gonna play some Lola.
Mr. Rook is lame-o, and we're going to make tons of jokes at your expense if you play with him. Okay.
Like, you can have 2 footwear items, but it costs your hand slots for the second pair. Wearing them on your hands.
That's fantastic.
We can call that the horsey rule.
The Springfield works on massive enemies. Oh, because
Sure.
you can't shoot with something you're engaged with? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I dig that.
Oh,
Let's see
see,
here.
and I like this one. All campaign decisions must be made in character. So if we have to play with a lot of criminal characters, we have to pick campaign options that are more shady or morally gray. This forces us out of going the same path each campaign, while the overall rules and play of the game stays the same.
I note that my campaign decisions are one of 2 things, and it's never in the middle. It's either totally theme-based on my investigator, or, man, what would Daisy pick in this circumstance or whatever, or like pure strategy because I'm like trying to like, you know,
Win.
min-max the shit out of a scenario, but it's never in the middle. It's like, what's thematic, but also one that's good for me? It's never that. It's one or the other. So
Same. Yeah.
If we go over 7 players, enemy health is capped at 65, and investigators get +1 action. So far, we've only been up to 8. Yay! Thanks, Eric Johnson.
just play 2 games.
Sometimes I'm unable to discern satire from sincerity on the internet.
That does sound fun though. Like a 10-player. God, can you imagine like something with a small map?
Like 10-player gathering.
Yes.
We're all in the study.
Yeah. A rats pop up. You're like, get him.
And the
kick
ghoul
them.
priest has 50 health.
Yeah. Oh.
Wait, he doesn't just have 5 health?
No, it's per player. All right. Resolutions. We already covered the salty run back.
Yeah, I did have to skip to that one.
Some people are ignoring trauma. They just don't think it's a fun mechanic. To be honest, half the time I don't use it because I genuinely forget to apply it until
That's
halfway
real.
through the next scenario.
That's a real thing. It's just like straight up
Mhm.
forgetting that you have trauma. Especially if you're like coming back to a campaign having taken a break and played something else, which is something I do more than I should. I forget trauma all the time.
A player can spend 5 resources as a free action at the beginning of a scenario to heal 1 physical or 1 mental trauma.
Interesting.
Neat.
It's cheaper than 5 resources, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Or sorry,
Fair.
5 XP is what I meant. I
Yeah.
said
Oh,
it's
I didn't
resources.
even
and I said
catch you said that, but I knew what you meant. But
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
That's on quite a curve as you think about it. I mean, people pay what they want to pay for it, but I wonder if there was going to be that sort of functionality built into the game,
Yeah.
what the actual cost would be from a design standpoint.
I think
And maybe
the
there's not
interesting
actually
part of this one-
an answer, but
Yep. Yeah, I think the interesting part of this one is it's 5 resources as a free action at the beginning of a scenario, right? So
Right.
you are starting the game at 0.
So you're
Which
basically
is-
hitting the e-brake at the beginning of the scenario, which that will have an effect. That's
Could lead to
that's
another
not
trauma.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, will probably lead to another trauma. Net neutral.
Yeah. If you're knocked out because your health or sanity reaches 0, you are dead. That's actually an ultimatum in where is it?
Finality.
they're down below.
Yeah.
There's finality and survival.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, survival is the player is eliminated from the campaign, which is just it is just oh so harsh.
Wow.
Go home, Steve. You're done.
How to lose friends and alienate people, I guess.
We've had a couple of call outs here to replaying scenarios if it means the end of the campaign. Just like straight up save point, checkpoint, call it back, run it back, play again. We've covered that.
Yeah, I've seen a few regarding like replacement investigators. Either like there's one idea here to have like a campaign XP total that you keep track of. So like if you have a replacement come in, then they can just use those XP instead of starting from scratch.
No, I definitely.
And
do
then
that.
another one was kind of taking from Eldritch Horror, where like you can take a few of the cards from your old investigator into your new replacement investigator deck.
I like if a scenario is lost by exactly 1 action, we can take a trauma to continue as if that final action had succeeded.
Interesting.
Yeah. I like that one. It's Sam Chapman.
I mean, that's basically what I was advocating, or some variant of it, when we were playing Marvel and trying to beat Sabretooth.
Yeah.
I mean, that right?
I took a mental trauma. I'll tell you what.
Oh, that was not an in-game effect. That was real life. Oh boy, that was
meta with that one.
Yeah.
I think we're to standalones and side scenarios.
Yep.
So a common one I've heard many times is don't pay XP for the standalone scenarios up front, and you subtract the cost of the scenario from your total at the end of that scenario. So I like
Totally
that a lot.
fair. Yeah.
Interesting and novel idea is to try putting a standalone version of a campaign scenario into a different campaign as a side scenario. You know, technically should pay XP for the privilege, but you know, who can be bothered?
Yeah.
And there's probably some interesting things to be done there. You could probably craft some interesting narrative as to why suddenly we're in the crypts of Paris.
The
Ooh,
flashback rule.
I like the flashback rule.
Yeah,
Yeah.
side scenarios inserted into the middle of the campaign. Those side scenarios cannot end your campaign. Which
Okay.
you pay
Yeah,
the
you
XP
treat-
cost and play the scenario. If you fail it, you refund the XP and continue with the campaign. It's a flashback.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you get to see what you've experienced, and if it goes well, you've learned from it, and if not, then hey, the world hasn't ended because it was a flashback, and you're just back in the present.
That's
Yeah.
from Morton.
I think a lot of these get out the idea that like I don't know how similar my experience is to the general Arkham player base, but I don't find myself inserting side scenarios into campaigns much, and it's like because they already carry like an inherent kind of risk in it, and then you add the XP cost on top of it. But like the goal at the end of the day is to play more Arkham, so if there are ways to like make inserting side scenarios feel less painful,
Yeah.
then I'm all for it.
I straight up do not think side scenarios should cost XP. Like,
Yeah.
I understand from a design perspective, you don't want people to like RPG grind it out on like 10 side scenarios and then
But
move on to
why
scenario
not?
3 of a campaign. Exactly.
But
Exactly.
why not?
Like this is an RPG. Why shouldn't you be able to grind? If I want to
Yeah.
play 10 extra scenarios of this campaign, what should stop me?
And then I can go raffle stomp the rest of the campaign. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Like if you're gonna spend all your time like cheesing enemies and building up before you fight Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII, that's fine. Like we should be able to do the equivalent in Arkham Horror.
To be fair, I was thinking Final Fantasy X in my head, but your example is 100% as valid.
There was there's a lot on multi-campaign investigators, which is kind of was something hinted in the rule book, but was never really followed up on. And I don't think a lot of people do this, but like playing marathon mode where you play through every campaign order, unlocking cards as you go. When you die, you just pick up a new investigator, a little less XP. Or if you're using the same investigator, you keep the level 3 and below XP cards at the cost of keeping whatever trauma you've built up. Or 1 mental or health trauma per card you want to keep. Kind of some neat ideas.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those things that, like, technically in the rules has existed from the start of the game,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like many people execute on it.
Yeah. Well,
Probably
especially
for
with how much
Go on.
trauma you start with. Like it's like sometimes
Yeah.
even like succeeding, it's like also you take 2 health and 2 horror trauma because you saw the mythos. It's like so my first scenario I'm starting with like 3 and 4, 3 damage, 4 horror. It's like, well, I don't think this is gonna be a long campaign.
Doesn't seem like it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to skip to the damn Cthulhu to hell rules because it's laid out in such a beautiful way, and y'all need to go like look at at our website and see this because it's actually laid out in like a booklet, like the Arkham Horror booklet. So there's the idea is perfectly balanced to the theme of H.P. Lovecraft lore, complete with all its misery, fatalistic doom, and horrible endings. And as such, even when playing in easy mode, you might face stiff challenges, overwhelming doom, and other bad events, and generally a good time. And apparently it is a good time. Like, it's selling me. I might legitimately try this. So, mode 1 is give a man a tentacle. So the chaos bag for this is +1/+1/+1. 0/0/0/0. I'm intrigued. -1 -1 -1 -2. Skull, tablet, cultist, auto fail, elder sign. And then any special scenario related symbols. And then each investigator automatically gets to equip their personal item without paying the cost for it. So I assume that means your signature card.
How does that work with Jenny? You get the guns, no ammo.
You can
X
pay
is
up to
0.
5, I guess.
Yeah. But without paying the cost.
And then
I guess.
during play, whenever a chaos token is drawn from the bag and it is a -1, -2 symbol, bad symbol token, the token is not returned to the bag. I assume that means you draw another one?
I think it means like you resolve it, but then it's set aside after you draw it.
Oh, interesting. And then whenever a +1/0 or elder thing is drawn, all tokens get returned back to the bag. Interesting. I'm trying to wrap my head around what that would do for test probability.
I mean, you're gonna pass most of them.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean,
And I-
this is all just built to make the game easier, right? Like
Yeah.
it's very clear that this is about getting to experience the narrative. So
Right.
it's trying to keep at least a semblance of a game there, but yeah, it's not going to be. You can get into the probability of it, but the answer is you win.
Yeah, it's his story mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I
There's
think
story
what is the golden rule here? It's have fun, read every scenario / act card after you lost, and then won the game.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm trying to see who's credited for this.
It's M.R. Claxton, noted story enthusiast, and it looks like this is also out on, I think, Board Game Geek. I believe it was linked over in Facebook, but this also looks like it's from back maybe 2018. I don't know that they've gone back to it since then, but yeah, it definitely seems like something that is, hey, I want to see the story and experience the theme, but boy, is there way too much going on, and I don't have time to deck build or figure out hand management or any of that. So
Yeah, and that's
on
kind of
them.
one. Yeah, good. Like, this is really cool. And we're obviously not going to go through the whole thing, but this is the sort of thing that I would love to see from more house rules. Is just kind of completely throwing off the paradigm of what we consider the chaos bag mix to look like. You know, that's the sort of thing I want to see. Is just completely fuck up my ability to predict what the chaos bag is going to do, and something like this with maybe a little bit more of a more difficult slant might scratch that itch. Well, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a ton of what do you call them? Scenario specific house rules. here,
Campaign
too.
specific.
Campaign, sorry.
Yeah, we don't want to just skim through those. Those are probably more useful to people, unless there's any that really stand out to you guys, more useful as they're playing through.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely recommend, again, coming out here, throwing your own at us, and telling people about this when the topic of house rules comes up because you know, this is one of the bigger dumps of house rules that I've seen, and again, huge props to Reaverman Chad, friend of the show, for putting this together for us.
Yeah. Would not have gotten to this without him.
Wonderful. Well, just another quick reminder: if you have a house rule and you want well, first of all, go submit it on the website. If that's not a thing you're going to do, you might call it into the Mythos Busters hotline at 203-493-6984. That's 203-493-MYTH. We love to hear from you guys. All right, boys. Gonna move it on into a little bit of technical time. What's been grabbing y'all lately? Ian?
For me, I think one new thing is I've heard some good word of mouth about a new Lovecraft-related game, specifically around Dreams in the Witch House, which is my favorite Lovecraft story, and it's called Dreams in the Witch House. So this is a PC game. I'm not sure if it's on Switch or not, but it is a kind of point and click type adventure, which I've stated before on the podcast. I'm a big fan of point and click adventures. So if you think like Monkey Island, that's probably the most famous of the genre. But one of the cool things they did in Dreams in the Witch House, and I'm only a little bit into it, so can't speak too much about it, but I'm already really enjoying what I've experienced so far, because it's a point and click adventure, but it also has some not quite open world elements, but I'll say non-linear elements, as far as like, because a lot of point and click adventures, it's like just a series of puzzles, like go here, now you're gonna do this, figure out this puzzle, and they tend to be fairly linear. But this one is like, you are the main character in Dreams in the Witch House, just have come to Arkham, and you have days. Each day you kind of figure out what to do, whether it's like going to Miskatonic University and attending your lecture, or working on your weird theories, or just all kinds of other things you can get up to. So there are like tasks that you technically, I wouldn't even say have to do, but that are like goals that you can achieve. But you really each day can kind of decide what you're gonna spend time on and what you're gonna do. And you have to worry about like him getting too tired because he's not sleeping well, or getting hungry, and all these. So there's all these systems, and so I think that's what makes this, people really like this one, is because it's a mix of like point and click adventure and very much that aesthetic, combined with like these elements of like not necessarily having a prescribed path, and it really has the creeping dread that the story does. And from what I've heard, that kind of plays out in the fact that like you can have very different kinds of playthroughs. Like once you beat it once, there's, you know, multiple endings, of course, and you can, you know, try many different paths to the end, and you're going to end up with different endings. So it's very, very good so far. I'm definitely going to put some time into this.
Have you experienced any of the like abstract horror that the original story offers? How does it handle that?
Not yet, but as far as I know, it does kind of delve into that abstractness. So I'm curious how it's going to handle that.
I'm very interested in your updates.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Scott, how about you?
I've been playing a bit of Marvel Snap. I got to the infinite rank.
Just a bit.
Just the stupid broken deck that I don't even enjoy playing anymore. So, but I got to infinite, so that's all that matters, right?
That's competitive card playing to a T, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes it is. But yeah, it was interesting. Marvel Snap can be absolutely rage-inducing or not.
Yeah.
It just depends on, you know, how it goes. And
Fuck weird
sometimes
world.
it's like, wow, I lost, and I don't know how I lost. But
fucking checking the math like you can do anything about it.
yeah,
I do that shit all the time.
the thing that really helped me was reading or watching this video about a guy who's like, hey, when you think about snapping and retreating in Marvel Snap, if you've ever played poker, just think of it as folding, and it makes it way easier to just retreat. I was like, huh. That changed my mindset enough that I'm like, can I win this? Probably not. Well, I'm just gonna leave. Why risk it? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the ways that I've gotten through it. It's also why I've lost 8 cubes exactly 4 times.
yeah.
Never more than that.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Well, that's better
More
than me.
discerning player than me.
Yeah. Because
My
sometimes I'm
hubris
very
gets
sure.
the best of me way more often than it should.
Sometimes I'm very sure I'm gonna win, and then I don't. The other thing is I got to play I guess a beta or like a intro game to a convention game. So okay, this is a game that's currently kickstarted and it's currently funded, and so they're good to go. But it's actually by a listener of ours, Laushi Mahan. And it's called Worn Wanderers, and it's this neat little game where it's meant to be played at conventions. And so you know how everyone gets a lanyard at conventions with their little ID card or whatever? It's these pins of characters with the little cards behind them that rotate on the pin, whatever you call the little pokey thing on a pin. It allows you to basically battle other people.
I think
Like
that's the pin.
Okay. If you're like standing in line or whatever, and it's like you have different heroes, you make different team makeups, and you customize the little decks. Like there's these 4 cards underneath each pin. It's a really, really neat game. And I can totally see this like being at a convention like Gen Con or, I don't know, BusterCon and playing it. It takes like all of 10 minutes. And yeah, I don't know. It was super easy to pick up and play. Really neat. It has like deck building elements to it where you create your own list of heroes and their little decks to go with them. And yeah, super fun. So if you're interested, check it out on Kickstarter. I put the link in chat. Worn Wanderers. Like someone who is worn out or you're wearing them. Get it? Worn Wanderers.
And Scott, I'm just going to jump in for a quick clarification here. We have not received any compensation.
Oh yeah,
no. This game.
No. This is just we were doing some other stuff, and he's like, "Hey, I'm making this game. You want to see it?" I was like, "Sure." and then he showed me, and I was like, "This is neat." So I just thought I
Imagine
would-
thinking enough people listen to Tentacle Time to give us money to prop their game.
What's the calculation? The like cost per 1,000, the CPM,
CPM.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. CPM for us is like 8 cents. Is that good or bad? I can't remember.
I don't know. It sounded low.
Sure, we'll go with that. Anyways, War and Wonders, check it out. It seems neat.
Yeah.
Lao Shiman is apparently he's going to come to BusterCon, so maybe we'll get to play it there, try it out.
Love
So,
that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Where are we at, Justin?
Yeah, I have also been playing Marvel Snap a little bit. Have not been able to put in the time I had done before. So Scott, I don't think I'm going to be joining you at Infinite this season, but I'm glad at least one of us
Casual.
got there. I actually
Filthy casual.
I for the most part don't care about the rank on there at all. But then for the first time, I'm like, oh, but the card back you get for Infinite this time is actually cool.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. It is. I'm glad you've been. It seems like you and I have roughly been playing it at the same pace, so we're able to talk about some of the things we're seeing. But then it's still, I love what Snap is doing, where even if those of us are ahead or behind in progression, we still roughly know what's going on and can talk about it. So I'm still quite high on Snap. There's definitely times where I want to just walk away for a couple days, and I do. But still enjoying it, and we need to get back to, or actually establish, playing with each other a little more. I think that would make it more fun than just purely randos.
That stuff is fun.
Yeah, but been doing that. Also, have been watching more shows than usual. We just watched through What We Do in the Shadows, which I loved the movie. And then we'd been trying to watch it before, and it was one I tried to get my wife to watch with me, and she bounced after I think 2 episodes, and so I stopped. I'm like, no, I think she'll like it. And now we're a year or 2 later, and we're trying again, and now we've watched all 4 seasons.
Nice.
So it's quite good.
I'll watch anything with Matthew Berry in it.
It's
Is Matthew Berry? Is that
Fully agreed.
Murray?
No,
Murray
that's
Band Manager?
Reese Darby. I'll also watch anything with Reese
right.
Darby in it.
Come on, guys,
Matthew-
we're werewolves, not swearwolves.
Come on, guys. Matthew Berry is Bats.
Oh yes.
Jackie Daytona.
Jackie Daytona, human bartender.
Is he
So-
also the guy from IT Crowd?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Sure is.
I lump him in the same category as H. John Benjamin, where I don't know what it is just about their voice and delivery, but like whatever they say comes off as funny.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree to that. So
Love that show.
anyway, we watched that, and then still playing or getting more into Dying Light with our 4-player crew. I'm quite enjoying the shenanigans that go on there.
I wish I had time to play Dying Light, because I played the first one. Like, I did every single side quest. I 100% of that game. All
So
the
we're-
DLC, everything.
It is the first one, and we are we're at the point where I would say, if not this week, because we usually play on Monday nights, if not this upcoming week, then for sure the next one, the other 3 are all going to have the grappling hook. And
I'm told makes a difference.
They're probably sick of hearing me ask, what level are you at? When are you going to get it? But it's like a first-person Spider-Man experience.
Yes, it is.
So fun.
I'm into that.
Yeah, so
I believe you. I just can't play any faster.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to.
Excellent. Well, for me, last time I managed to miss talking about the fact that I went to a concert. I don't do too many of those nowadays, as opposed to in days past. But I got to see One OK Rock One OK Rock and Evanescence open for Muse.
Oh wow.
That was a really, really fun show. So I was fairly unfamiliar with One OK Rock until I bought these tickets, but then I started listening to like their more recent albums, and they were really solid. Apparently they will sell out stadiums in Japan, but they're still kind of in the phase of making a name for themselves over here, so they're opening for Muse. But they put on a really good show. Evanescence was really solid. Amy Lee is in her MILF arc, and I am here for it. They put on a really solid show. And then, Muse. Just, I don't know that I've been to a concert with more elaborate set pieces. And, like, they had 2 separate giant humanoid torsos with, like, hands and articulating arms and stuff that changed mid-set. So, you know, think what you will about Muse, and their latest album has drawn some divisive thoughts, and I think that's fine because I'm a little divided on it myself. But they put on a fantastic show, so I got to take the kiddo and her friend to a rock show, and that was really good. It's a little hard to motivate myself to get into like crazy crowds nowadays, particularly when there's like traffic and parking involved. That's just like the bane of my existence as I get older, or just post quarantine. I'm not sure which it actually is, but really glad I went out and caught that show. It was a fantastic time.
Yeah.
Also continuing Midnight Suns. I am perfecting the game of biding my time while waiting for Storm to drop. Morbius, of course, Morbius dropped earlier this week. And if they stay on the same schedule, which, you know, we're now 3 of 4 where they've been on the same schedule, so I think it's pretty reasonable. Storm should drop at the end of April, and then it is no holds barred. I am going so hard at that game. But yeah, really, really enjoying it so far. It is exactly what I was looking for in like a new Marvel experience. I feel like it was tailored so perfectly to me. The writing and acting isn't always an A+, but what they're going for is really good. And like the idea of like even within the team that you're building, there are like sub cliques that you have to like reconcile against each other. Like the prior Midnight Suns are kind of like standoffish with the Avengers that have now recently joined the team. So like there's like social dynamics in a Marvel game, which is just, I've never seen it before. So I'm having, you know, with like Mass Effect level companion interaction and like friendship building on the level of like your Fire Emblems or something like that. I don't know. I can't say enough good things about this game, and I really think it's relevant to everyone's interests here. So yeah, Midnight Suns, if you haven't tried it yet. It's a free weekend, which is not useful to anyone
really?
but the 6 people left in the audience right now. Because this episode won't drop before the weekend's up.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, go try it out, dude.
It's a really good game. Yeah, I think you'll like it, Scott.
How far did you get, Ian? I know you talked about it, but I feel like I haven't heard you talk about it in a while.
Yeah, because I paused to do other stuff. But yeah, I'm trying to think of how far I got. I want to say like 5-6 hours into it, something like that.
Okay, so you're still pretty early.
Yeah.
Yeah, the roster's cool. The writing and voice acting is generally, I'm going to say generally with an asterisk, a good mix of like what you'd come to expect from the characters have you witnessed them in the MCU, where they, you know, obviously not every character has existed in the MCU yet, versus what you might expect from the comics. But the voice acting is solid. Like, for instance, Spider-Man is currently being voiced by Yuri Lowenthal, who is the Spider-Man from the PS4 games. And like does a really good job. And I don't know, the whole thing is great. It's a card game, it's a role-playing game, it's a social dynamics game, and it's all set within the Marvel universe, in particular with like a cosmic horror storyline. It's so good. Just do it. Just do it. It's so good. It's called Marvel Midnight Suns.
I will. I'll see if I can take a look this weekend. Free is the cost I like to pay. So
this one, yeah, okay. Well, that's fair. Obviously I think this one is worth money. I paid money for it. But the thing is like it is so good, but it has commercially not done that well, and I don't know exactly why. It's probably a flub of the marketing, maybe the fact that it's a tactics-based game, but also a card game throws some people off.
Yeah.
But anyway, super fun.
Keep listing things I like, Sean.
Right? It ticks all the boxes. It was the game I didn't know I wanted until I bought it, which is maybe why it failed commercially. All right, we solved it. There it is.
Got there. You got there.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for episode 150. It was a very special one. We look forward to seeing everyone who can come to BusterCon there, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.